Hello everyone, and welcome back to another numismatic history video. Today's video we're going to be learning about the silver certificate, so let's get into it. Alright, so to start things off, let's talk a little bit about what silver certificates are. So right here, this is a silver certificate. It's not in super good shape, but it's the only one I have in my collection, so I thought I would show it off. So a silver certificate is a type of money that was printed between 1878 and 1964 that allowed anyone that had them to redeem them for silver dollar coins. So you could go to your bank and this would give you $1 silver. The US government introduced these silver certificates to appease a lot of people who believed that adding silver coinage would spur inflation and economic growth. These silver certificates were made when the U.S. still went by the gold standard, and a big reason that these were printed were because it's a lot easier to carry around a paper bill or a piece of paper than it is to carry around a dollar coin. So if you had a bunch of dollar coins, it'd be a lot more annoying to carry them around. So this is why people like them a lot. These also gave a lot more U.S. citizens more trust in U.S. currency because it was backed by real silver amounts that were held by the government. So they would never print more silver certificates than the government had silver to get back to the people. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the details of this bill here. So most silver certificates, there's only two examples that don't follow this. Almost all of them have this blue lettering in the serial number and a blue stamp. So a typical dollar bill, if you didn't know already, has green serial number and green stamp. But silver certificates are identified by their blue stamp. So if you ever see a bill that has a blue stamp and blue serial number, then it is a silver certificate. And these often sell for more than face value, so they're good to hold on to. This one probably would be close to face value just because it's a fairly recent one. It's a 1935 C series, so it's not super old and it's not in very good condition at all, but still is probably worth a little bit more than $1. These certificates also have at the bottom, it says $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. And so that's another way that you can identify that it's a silver certificate. Now you might be wondering, what happened to these? Why don't we see these all the time? Why aren't we using them? Well, the government stopped issuing new silver certificates in the 1960s after having silver shortages because silver is used in a lot of electronics now. And so in the 60s, electronics started being made a lot more and silver was being used in that. And so the government couldn't get a hold of silver to make silver coins for a good price, and so they stopped printing silver certificates. So today, if you went to your bank, you wouldn't be able to use these to get silver, but you still can use these and spend them like a normal dollar. So they're still legal tender, they just don't give you the silver value that they have. All right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is some types of silver dollars that are more valuable because they're different in some way. So I just have this normal one right here, but I'll be putting up some pictures on the screen that will go along with this, and so that you can see what I'm talking about. So in 1935 series, they had an experimental phase where they wanted to test out two different types of paper. So there were two groups, and each had 1.184 million notes that were printed. Notes printed on the regular paper were stamped with a red R on the lower right side of the note. And notes printed with special paper, or the new paper, were stamped with a red S, so that they would know if it was the new paper or the special paper. So if you find one of these in circulation, these are typically more valuable than a normal silver certificate. The next kind of silver certificate that we'll be talking about are the war silver certificates. There's two types of them from World War II. There's the Hawaii one. This Hawaii bill has Hawaii marked on the bill, and it also has a more brown stamp and lettering instead of the blue. So this is the cases that I was saying wouldn't have the blue lettering or stamp. These are the only cases that don't have them. So the Hawaii ones were printed in July of 1942 during World War II because they wanted to have a bill in Hawaii that could be canceled if they needed it to be, if Hawaii got occupied by the Japanese. So they didn't want the Japanese to have a bunch of US money that they could use against the US. So they had these so that if Hawaii did get occupied, they could just cancel them and say that they weren't legal tender. So these are also typically worth more than an average silver dollar, and they're a pretty cool piece of history. I would really love to have one of these. The next war-issued one is the North Africa one, and it was issued for similar reasons. It was issued for use in North Africa when US troops were fighting Italy during World War II. So they have a yellow stamp on the front, and that's how they're mainly identified, and they could also be canceled if they need to be. Other things that can make your silver dollars more valuable are fancy serial numbers, which I talked a little bit about this in my $2 bill video. But there's all sorts of fancy bills or fancy serial numbers. If you have really low numbers like 000, 001, things like that, like those are really low numbers, and so people will pay more for them, things like that. There's also birthday notes, which are when the serial number matches up to be the date, like to be someone's birth date. So if you can find someone with that birth date, then they might buy it for more than it's worth on face value. There's also star notes, which will have a little star on the bill, and that means that they were reprinted because the bill was in some way damaged. So those are usually worth more, especially in good condition or high grades. So yeah, that's silver certificates for you. If you know anything else about silver certificates, I'd love to hear about it. This is just some of what I did as research. If you'd like to learn more, I'll leave some links of different websites that I use to get this information down in the description of this video. Also, if you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I try to make content like this several times a week, and I also do coin roll hunts. Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.